So yeah, Hunter was here for this at the time. Do you remember? Do you remember Andy Caswell?
Yeah, can you hear me though?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I
Uh,
remember her. Is it too
so
loud?
no, it's fine. So she came up with the idea of on that last day where we played like a Backstreet Boys cover, and it was just kind of a mess, and like everybody was really anxious, and it was like, now we're all going home for a while. We don't know if we're going to see each other again. It was really abrupt, and she said, let's pause the clock. Like this is not a goodbye. It's a pause. And we took the batteries out of it. I put them under the strap on the bass amp, and I kept it there. So it's the same battery.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it was at 1:07 p.m. On March 21st, 2020. And I kept it there all last year. Like I just kept it frozen that spot, and we agreed that let's not take out, let's not put the batteries back in until we could be a band again, if we can ever be a band again, and then even if there's all new people, then like use this as a commemorative sort of thing. So that commemorative day happened yesterday, and I gotta tell you, I was a bit of an emotional wreck. So I'm gonna share you the teaser for this thing, and then I'll play you the video after we watch the documentary here. Hey everybody, 550 days ago to the hour, March 21st, 2020, we took the batteries out of this clock, not knowing if we'd see each other again, and promised not to put them back in that clock until we could make music as a group, as a band, in this room again. Today, we start again at zero. Here come the batteries. Let's rock. Anyway, that might not seem like much, but I felt like I was lighting an Olympic torch. Um, and there was a few tears, and we all made some music together. We played an original song from that some stuff that we wrote last year, and um, it was pretty cool. So I'll play that for you later. But let's continue with the music theory and white supremacy thing, because Hunter has not seen some of this. Luca slash Ezra and Iman, could you maybe give like a little bit of a um, uh, update as to what we've learned about in the last couple lessons? I'm happy,
Uh,
but
well, pretty much. We're saying that classical music. It's very
hold
I
on.
guess
Define classical music.
classical music. It's Mozart, Beethoven, essentially European
Thank you.
famous writers. Sorry. And the thing is, though, like what we're talking about now is it's like aimed towards European music theory and not including the other um, because well, other types of music theories out there. Like we covered India, or was it India?
Yeah, Northern India. Yeah.
Yeah, Northern India, mm, India's music theory. And the thing is, it's like day and night because you know the circle of fifths, right, Hunter?
That
Yes, I do.
Well, it looks
7
very simple to understand, but I think Mr. Blatz can pull up the North
Sure.
Indian
Sure.
or North
I'll
Indian
pull up the
version.
circle of fifths first, because that one's uh, pretty common, easy to find. There's the circle of fifths, like every note on the piano plus its major and minor keys, all arranged in a circle. And then go ahead and continue, man.
Well, and thing is, that is very basic now that I understand more about Northern Indian music theory. And if you've seen India's version of the circle of fifths, it's exactly like that.
It's not it's not 12 key centers, it's 72. And they're
Yep.
not arranged by their kind of like It's the happy and sad side. It's the dark and the light. It's arranged based upon time of day, cycle of the moon, function in terms of emotion as opposed to other emotion, grievance, celebration. It's completely outside of the Western tradition in a really positive way. It's not like alternative for the sake of being alternative. It's far more ancient, far more complex. And that's not a value judgment. That's just I'm saying what I'm seeing. It's clearly sophisticated in a way that the Western tradition is not, and yet it's not taught in our general practice. And that's problematic, extremely problematic. Okay,
Yeah.
so that was the first section. The next section after that was
Did we cover like the second section? I kind of forgot that part. What did you remember is Ben Shapiro not agreeing that rap music is not music?
Yeah, maybe don't dignify him by
The
saying
Yahoo guy, yeah.
yeah, you're talking about how rap isn't music because it doesn't have melody.
Yeah.
Clearly not. Even the word rap, R-A-P, it's an acronym. It stands for rhythm and poetry. It's words plus rhythm, and clearly it has pitch. It's just not melodic pitch.
Yeah.
And what we dug into that one was how we dug into that one was the idea that improvisation is part of rap. Freestyling, as it's kind of known in the common parlance, to speak sort of squarely. But the culture that we dug into that one was West African. So like Ghanaian, Cote d'Ivoire,
Oh yeah.
Leone, what was the other country? Chad, I think. And how if the method of African music education was applied to Western cultures, everyone would fail because there's not a strong tradition of dance. And in the Ghanaian and Nigerian cultures, Nigeria, that was the other country, sorry. There's no word for music and there's no word for dance. There's only one word for music and dance. They are the same. They cannot be made without each other. So anyway, onwards with the documentary. Any questions so far, Hunter? That's a lot of stuff to digest real quick after being away for a couple of days.
No
Okay.
questions.
So here's the last three parts of the documentary. This is where it starts to dig into the academic side of like how music theory is taught, having an unfortunate connection to white supremacy. And this is not something that I'm necessarily sharing as truth. It's something I'm sharing because it's come across my consciousness in the last couple of years, and I think it's worth sharing with the next generation of people. It may or may not be universally true, but it's certainly rang true for me. Here we go. Stopping my video for better streaming. Stop video. Here we go.
9 sharp 9 flat 13. Heinrich Schenker, I guess.
If Beethoven is our exemplar for a music composer, Schenker is our exemplar for a music theorist.
Heinrich Schenker, 1868 to 1935, arguably the most influential music theorist in American music theory.
So in the United States, if you want to get a graduate degree in music theory, I know there are tens of you got to study the theories of Heinrich Schenker. American music theory has very deep Schenkerian roots. David Carson Berry traces the popularity of Schenker's ideas of music in America for a desire in the 1930s for more objective musical criticism, which bears more than a little similarity to pop culture think pieces which appeal to the supremacy of the rules of Western music theory today. They're both born from Schenkerian ideals.
He came up with ideas about how the structure of music theory plays out, from a background structure to then a middle ground structure and a foreground structure. So this background structure came in only a couple of varieties. It essentially had a motion from a tonic to a dominant to a tonic chord that could play out in 2 bars, or it could play out in 200 bars or 500 bars in a movement by Beethoven or Mozart.
Schenkerian analysis has a unique form of musical notation that attempts to identify the deep structure of what Schenker considered the great works of tonal music, what Schenker called the ersatz, the sound of scale degree 3 resolving to scale degree 2 resolving to scale degree 1. In other words, at their fundamental level, all great works of music are 3 blind mice. This is a bit of an oversimplification, but honestly, not that much.
He had a very short list of great composers. They were, of course, all white men. They were 11, I think some people say 12 in number. All German speaking except for 2, Chopin, who was a Pole, and Domenico Scarlatti, who was Italian.
If you want to learn Schenkerian analysis,
My name is Dr. Jacob Gran.
I highly recommend Dr. Jacob Gran's videos on YouTube. They're a clear and concise introduction to a very complicated subject that might help you better understand the works of tonal composers. I 100% recommend these videos. They are great.
He drew heavily on 18th century theories of melody.
When you watch these videos, though, you start to realize that the concept of figured bass is absolutely essential in understanding Schenkerian analysis, as well as the idea of continuo. It becomes clearer why there is figured bass everywhere in all of our music theory textbooks. It's because it's all a system designed to teach Schenkerian ideas from the ground up. It's actually pretty explicit in, the preface to this book, Harmony and Voice Leading. This book reflects the theoretical and analytic approach of Henryk Schenker. The book will provide a valuable preparation for the later study of Schenkerian analysis. The problem is that Schenker is not useful in understanding any other style of music besides Western classical music. You can't do Schenker to Meshuggah, for example, or James Brown, or Anuja Kamat's music. And even within the Western canon, Schenker does not do a very good job of explaining rhythm, or timbre, or any other musical element. Dance, if we're going to adopt the African worldview. We've built music theory from the very ground up with the idea that the only music worth analyzing and worth having a language of analysis for is the music that this mustache liked to analyze. And if you can't analyze music through his theories, then it isn't music. It's not worthy of your time. It's inferior. You can't do music theory to it. This is the legacy of Ben Shapiro and his
music theorist father who went to music school.
Western music theory has developed a language that attempts to show white culture's superiority over non-white cultures under the guise of objective analysis. It's all a system designed to show white supremacy over non-white culture. And if you think that's me being hyperbolic or speculative, no, that's exactly what Schenker set out to do with his theory of music.
He said very explicitly, I think of music like I think of people. I have a unified worldview. There's a hierarchy. White people are at the top. There's a hierarchy. The foreground is at the top. Also, the 11 or 12 composers are clearly at the top. And then he always used the word genius. Genius was code for white. It was also code for German.
In his essay, Schenker the Regressive, the conductor Leon Botstein would write,
The fact that Schenker, an observant and active member of the official religious Viennese Jewish community, adhered to these views and propagated them indicates how deep-seated was the sense of German cultural superiority within German-speaking Europe and how widely it was internalized.
So the most controversial part is not saying that Schenker praised Hitler in a letter to his pupil Felix Eberhard von Kuba in May of 1933, 4 months after Hitler ascended to the chancellery. It's not that Schenker said, the Jews are the greatest enemies to Germany, and he was Jewish himself. It's not that he said, even Negroes think that they can govern themselves. No, it's not that he said these horrible things that that the white race must annihilate these Japanese animals because they're Japanese. No, it's not that he said all of those things. No one's going to dispute that. That's all out there.
Karl Schachter, the guy who co-wrote this harmony textbook that we keep referencing, wrote that for Schenker, both his political and musical ideas were armaments in a cultural struggle that would eventually lead to a regeneration of both music and society at large in the German-speaking world. Whew, okay, now things are getting serious. Music theory's intellectual framework is built on Germany's cultural struggle of the 1930s. That's good. Karl Schachter continues. Schenker believed that an aristocracy of some sort, at least in cultural matters, if not also in political structure, would promote the selection and support of gifted individuals among whom the rare genius might emerge. That he was altogether wrong in this last view, I'm not prepared to say. Wait a second. Schachter agrees with Schenker. Are music theorists... Is music theory like a...
Our roots are white supremacist. We have created racist policies based on that simple racist idea that whites are superior.
Dr. Ewell is not the first person to suggest that ignoring Schenker's racist ideas is not an option. Leon Botstein would also say in his essay,
Schenker's notion of superior culture as an instrument for civilizing the rest of the world, when placed in the context of such forceful prejudices and contempt, demands scrutiny.
I have taught Schenkerian analysis. I know it very well. Always got A's, always liked it. And I completely shoved it all under the carpet for my career. That was a bitter pill for me to swallow. Think of how hard it is for someone to swallow who's invested way more than I have, and there are many. The people who have devoted their careers, their energy, their toil to a field don't want to see it uprooted. They don't want to see their work undone. It's very difficult for that person to look into a mirror and say, race exists, whiteness exists, we've been rooted in pushing whiteness, and whiteness has had the leg up this whole time. And there have been other non-white groups who have been greatly disadvantaged.
Part 6 minor. No, really, music theory.
Okay, let's take a short pause there. That was a heavy bit of information.
Why was Hitler's voice censored?
Pardon?
Why was Hitler's voice or name censored?
I mean, I don't really know, but I could tell you, if I was making that video, I would not. I would also censor the name because I don't want to do that particular historical figure dignity by repeating his name.
Okay.
So it's in this particular case, I mean, that guy is probably Adam Neely, the documentarian, is probably censoring it in a bid to not be demonetized.
Oh yeah, I forgot YouTube. Yeah.
Yes, but had it been me making the documentary, not that I would ever be at the level to create something of this level, but I would also censor the name just because that figure doesn't deserve to have their name spoken anymore. So I think it might be a little bit of both.
Okay.
Good question. So anyway, so that's some pretty heavy stuff. Suggesting that the tradition of teaching music theory in schools or in our education system at large, post-secondary, etc., is an inherently white supremacist act, which kind of goes back to my initial statement of saying, like, you might have noticed that I've not really been teaching theory for the last few years because I've been growing more and more uncomfortable with how one-sided it is to how to analyze things. And in my own practice as a music theorist and a performer and a composer and an educator, how I've noticed that the traditional values of, the traditional skill set of music theory hasn't really translated into understanding how to play jazz or funk or improvised music. And even then, how trying to apply those music theory things to those things in an attempt to understand how to do them better hasn't resulted in anything other than a pigeonholing of the knowledge, and has ignored the emotional, spiritual side of how to understand music, where the point of composition is also the point of performance. where the music is created in an act of spiritual spontaneity. And again, we haven't even begun to scratch the surface of American indigenous music, which is a lot of both sides of improvisation and pre-planning and tradition and connection to the ancient. Again, I'm still working on that skill set to how to talk about it, but working on it as we speak, in fact. Anyway, thoughts, questions, concerns, cries for help, anything before we start the next section. Go ahead. I'm looking at you, Pingu. What do you have to offer?
Oh.
Nothing.
Man, that audio quality sounds really good, Hunter. I gotta say. What kind of microphone
really?
is that?
It's a Shure microphone. It was like $90 or like $100 or something. Paid lots of money for it.
Sounds like a Beta 58A. Am I right?
I think so. Yeah. I don't, when I buy something, I don't know what it is.
Well, it sounds pretty good. Beta 58A is good. Man, correct me if I'm wrong, but like I have a strong feeling that it's a Beta 58A at that price range, and from what I saw before and how it sounds, I think it's a Beta 58A. It's a good microphone. I have about half a dozen of those myself.
Do you want to see it?
Yeah, sure, please. Oh no, it's a regular 58. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's what we've been using to record at school for like the last 8 years. That's a good microphone. Right on. Okay, anyway, sorry, onwards. There's about 8 minutes left in this, and then we'll get on to South Asian, more specifically Indonesian traditional music, because that's really the only part of the planet that we haven't touched other than Europe, America, South America, and India. And I wanted to make sure to round that off as much as possible. So, unless there's anything else to add, I'll continue on. You still with us, Luca / Ezra?
Yeah.
Good, just making sure. I myself am guilty of turning on the Zoom meeting and then walking away. Not that I'm accusing you of that. Just can't.
There's nothing to do in my house. I don't want to wake up the child because they're going to bed. So I'm just sitting in my room.
I see. Okay, onwards then. Sorry. Not sorry that we're going onwards. Sorry for the distraction. Yep, here we go.
Is really racist. I interviewed Dr. Ewell back in early July, and since that interview took place, there has been some, shall we say, music theory that has happened. After his speech at SMT, the Journal of Schenkerian Studies at the University of North Texas published 15 papers in a symposium response that Dr. Ewell was not invited to participate in. Now, some of these papers were half-assed, to say the least. One was just a short paragraph, and one was somehow published anonymously, which is strange because, you know, just ask any teacher if that's enough to get a passing grade on an assignment. You're gonna need to write your name on it, and you're gonna need to probably write more than one paragraph. Probably the worst offender in laziness, though, comes from a professor at the University of North Texas named Timothy Jackson, who quotes at length from the Wikipedia article on misogyny in rap music for some reason. I guess because Dr. Ewell isn't white. Accuses Dr. Ewell of black anti-Semitism and also of not bringing blacks up to standard, and also patronizingly dismisses the work of black musicians.
We can listen to their music with pleasure even if they aren't the supreme geniuses on the level of the greatest classical composers.
It's mostly an unhinged racist tirade, but more importantly, this guy quoted from Wikipedia, like at length. I don't even do that, and I make YouTube videos. Seriously, check the sources in the link in the description. There are a lot of them, and none of them are Wikipedia. Like, not to belabor this point, but can you imagine citing Wikipedia in a term paper or a thesis or dissertation? Like, does your teacher let you do that? Like, no, you don't. You don't do that, dude. Why the hell would we take you seriously? People were pissed and signed a letter that Timothy Jackson should probably be held to the same level of academic competence that high schoolers are, and also maybe not be such a racist douchebag personally to Dr. Ewell. And for some reason, Fox News decided that this would be part of the culture war now, as well as the National Review, who described Timothy Jackson's paper as
serious critique of that scholar's work, based on archival research within his highly specialized field, and after lifelong study of Schenker specifically, and music theory more generally.
Again, Wikipedia. The very first thing that you see when you type in, is Wikipedia a reliable source, is Wikipedia telling you that it is not a reliable source. Man, Timothy Jackson, you're just killing it, dude. Just killing it.
I heard the quote where blacks have to, you got to raise blacks up to standards so they can compete, which I'm like, oh my God. You couldn't even say that in like 1970.
So the unfortunate side effect of the cartoonish levels of racism coming out of the University of North Texas this month is that this whole thing has turned into a referendum on Heinrich Schenker, who, one, you probably just heard of today, and two, was just some racist anti-Semitic guy living in Europe at the turn of the 20th century, and let's be honest, he was not unique in that regard. The fact that Fox News desperately wants to turn this into cancel culture run amok is just stupid.
Phil wants to quote unquote cancel Schenker. I don't, never said it, kind of said exactly the opposite at the end of my long article. Phil wants us to throw away Schubert and never play Schubert anymore. Nope, never said it, wouldn't say it. Schubert was a very interesting composer. I like quite a bit of his music. It's not about canceling anybody. It's about addressing difficult issues directly, forthrightly. We're going to talk about it openly. We're going to talk about white supremacy, the roots in white supremacy. I mean, that's a statement of fact. It's not under question.
Yeah.
Music theory is historically rooted in white supremacy. The music theorists said it themselves in the 19th century, quite openly. It wasn't a secret. It only became a secret when white supremacy became untenable in the mid-20th century. You couldn't be white supremacist anymore. It had to go underground.
Part 7, Diminished. Coda. So where do we begin here? Well, the first step is in acknowledging that music theory is profoundly Eurocentric and white racially framed, and we already kind of have done that. In the beginning of this video, I asked you to replace the phrase music theory in popular media with the harmonic style of 18th century European musicians, and hopefully that got your wheels turning a little bit. Now, sometimes people genuinely are not referring to that style when they say music theory, but more often than not, they actually are. There's nothing wrong with the harmonic style of 18th century European musicians. I like the music of Bach, it's a big part of me. That does not mean that it has to be the default. The music theory of Heinrich Schenker also might be very useful in understanding the music of Bach and Mozart and Beethoven, and honestly, the musical notation looks freaking sweet. But that doesn't mean that his worldview has to be the default. And in fact, let's not adopt any of his worldview, please. So this video is already way too long, but I do want to mention a couple of things that have been glaringly omitted from the script so far. The first thing, of course, is the relationship of music theory to class. It costs money to go to music school, and not everybody has the ability to go to music school, the place where you learn this harmonic style of 18th century European musicians, and so knowledge of music theory can be kind of a class signifier. In the United States, anyway, the relationship between class and race is very clear, so this white racial frame of music theory affects class as well. Now, you might notice also that I've been talking about the United States primarily in this video, which is rather ironic in a video about the Eurocentrism of music theory, but I can only personally speak to my experience. And in my experience, I did not learn the music of Beethoven through the lens of Barry Harris and George Russell, people of color. Instead, I learned figured bass, which is all a system designed to teach Schenkerian analysis, which was a theory explicitly designed to teach German cultural supremacy. I didn't learn the basics of Ottoman or North Indian or Japanese or African music theory as a foil to Western theory, and I certainly did not learn how to dance in music school. I don't imagine my teachers were explicitly white supremacist in their view of music theory. Well, most of them anyway, but that doesn't mean that the system itself that they had to work with wasn't structurally biased towards the harmonic style of 18th century European musicians. And that's what makes racism structural. Sorry to bring in the critical race theory, by the way. I know if you're watching this now, you might be on some kind of future blacklist for anti-American activities, but here we are, everybody. Institutional racism is a bitch, and music theory plays a part of it. Here is me eating Fritos.
This this guy speaks some truth to me. I can't confirm its truth, but I feel as though it 100% is. In the meantime, having at least the knowledge that the theory that we've been teaching in schools for the last, however long, is at best biased and at worst white supremacist. All I can do is try to introduce my students to sources of authentic music that trying to apply the harmonic style of 18th century European musicians would not apply, and it would fall completely futile short of that. So we're going to take a little journey to Indonesia. As I said before, we talked about northern India, and I showed you an example of classical northern Indian music and how it can't be notated and will never be notated because that's part of it. It's like an oral tradition, if you will. And we talked about African music, in which dance, African, what am I talking about? It's Western African, Ghanaian and Nigerian and Cote d'Ivoire specifically, is rooted in the concept of dance and rhythm, of which, by the way, if you've ever done like any kind of like music theory study, you might notice that like there's no rhythmic section that which relates to the sense of time and the body and the movement throughout space, which is a big part of music. It's just not there. There's no rhythm section. There's like, here's your time signature, and here's how to notate these things so that other people can read them. But it's all based on notes. It's like, even in my experience as like a big band drummer, which is like the biggest part of my career is being a big band drummer, you can't really use the charts. It's just a bunch of X's and O's and like trying to make sense of this. Really, you have to listen. Anyway, I digress. So we're going to take a little journey to Indonesia here to try to like at least expose people to how music is perceived through the international lens. I'm going to ask Iman first to weigh in on this, because you spent a lot of time in. You know what, dude? I don't even know. I know you're Filipino and you speak a bit of Tagalog, and I know you speak a lot of Japanese and you've lived in Japan, but I don't know if you've actually lived in the Philippines.
I have lived in the Philippines.
You want to talk about that for a second before I pull up the map?
Sure. However, I wasn't raised traditional Filipino. I was raised as a white Filipino. I learned English before I learned my native language. Yeah.
From my experience, that's not an uncommon thing in the Philippines. Correct me if I'm wrong.
It depends on your social economic status.
Okay.
Like, and if you're as a third world country, a middle class, it's well, quote unquote third world, but
okay, thank you.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's so kind of a social hierarchy that if you know English, you're considered as quote unquote superior than the other Filipinos.
I buy that.
Yeah. And the thing is, you are very how do I say it? That you tend to stand out than the rest of the other Filipinos, because if you I guess pretty much how do I say it? What's the terminology I'm looking for? But but it all boils down is that if you meet another Filipino, they have a much thicker accent than me, and that's how you notice that some Filipinos it's their second language, not first.
Interesting.
Yeah, because notice like my accent is, well, very Western. No Filipino accent at all.
Come to think of it, I've only known you for about 8 months, but Yeah, I mean, oh man, detecting accents is so hard. But I gotta say, I guess I agree with you. I mean, I speak like English, and then I speak two other languages marginally well, and worked with a lot of people with accents. I gotta say, yeah, I guess I would agree with you based upon what you just said. Go on.
And I guess aside from that one is I don't know that much Filipino culture at all. That's the thing. I know very, 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 very little. I mean, even traditional classical Filipino music, I don't know that much, if not at all.
So some of what I'm about to show you is medium connected to Filipino culture, not directly, but
oh yeah.
Well, you'll see. Okay, so I've got the map up here, and here we go.
Sweet.
Okay, so here's Saskatoon. Y'all see that?
Yep. Very small city.
Yeah, give me a thumbs up if y'all can see this, or just say something or whatever.
I can see
can
it.
indeed.
Okay, got it. All right, so there's Saskatoon. There's Nutana Collegiate. Oh, place in the world. Okay, and there's Saskatchewan. And there's the world. Here is Indonesia. Fairly large island, south of Vietnam, southeast of the Philippines. Of course, this archipelago is really, really big. So, as you can see, man, like the Philippines and Indonesia are fairly close.
Super close.
Yeah.
You can actually mistake Indonesians as Filipinos sometimes because they look fairly similar.
Oh yeah, the distance from here to there is like less than the distance from here to Calgary. So it's not.
Even certain Japanese indigenous people will look similar to Filipinos too, or we look similar to them.
Well, yeah. From like an anthropological perspective,
yeah,
I would agree. But like, I don't know about the cultural traditions or even the
culture. No. It's like different.
Yeah. So, anyways, there's the Philippines. That's where a man is from. Hey. While we're here, what city did you spend time in?
Manila. Capital of the Philippines.
Yes, the capital, Manila. This is a completely beautiful city. It's an amazing. Yeah, sorry. I'll digress about the beauty of the Philippines later. But anyway, the country we're going to right now is Indonesia, which is very similar kind of archipelago, and that means collection of islands. But the biggest difference between the Philippines and Indonesia is that Indonesia has a mining industry that predates the modern tradition of mining by a long shot. In the Philippines, you can't really get metal out of the ground. In Indonesia, you can get metal out of the ground, which means because like this is a huge mountain in here, right? Borneo is a massive mountain, and you can mine it, and you can smelt it, and you can refine it, which shapes how you build traditional instruments. One of the first Southeast Asian cultures to actually be able to mine stuff and make metal means that the shape of their instruments is going to be significantly different of, say, anywhere else that's relying on wind instruments and percussive instruments. So I'm going to play you an example of what's called gamelan. Gamelan is essentially, it's like the Indonesian word for orchestra, or orchestra is the English word for gamelan. It means a group performance of music. And the instruments are built out of metal and glass that are like a medium refined metal. So, I mean, you guys know what a vibraphone is?
What?
A vibraphone? It's like a metal xylophone.
Oh, yeah.
But tuned to specific pitches. And if you've ever, like, say, I don't know, taken a metal bowl and thrown it down the stairs, the sound is crazy. Right? And take that, and you get a really thick metal bowl, and then hit it with a thick metal hammer, and you get like a gong sound, but it's not a gong in the same way as you might traditionally think about it. It's a ringing, vibrating sound that has like a quality that kind of gets really deep into the vibrational parts of your core. Do you guys remember that singing bowl that I have upstairs?
Singing bowl? I don't know.
Hunter's seen it before.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know about it because we used it for the nursing yoga.
Yeah, exactly. So that singing kind of quality out of one singular piece of bronze, but you hit it, and then there's different pitches of it, and you hit it with another metal hammer. And then also there's 20 other people doing that in unison. And there's drums and singers and flutes and dancers at the same time. The concept of the orchestra is way older than y'all think it is. And here's an example of the Indonesian gamelan. As soon as I can bring it up here. And this does not do it justice. I've heard one ensemble of this in my lifetime, and it was life-changing. Do you know what a sound bath is?
No.
It's okay. So it's like a sound bath is like basically a bunch of generated sine waves that are somehow in an alternative medicine way designed to vibrate certain parts of your chakras and core and organs into evidently being more healthy. I'm not sure I buy any of that.
Okay.
But
Snake oil?
felt like a sound bath. There was something vibrating in my physical being that was like nothing I've ever felt before. And also, you know, the people that are making this, it's been done for literally thousands of years, for millennia. Anyway, here we go. Gamelan. We're going to watch this entire thing. I recommend headphones and a sense of inner peace. Sorry. A note here. Do you see this dude's left hand that's like muting the notes at the same time? The level of physical dexterity this takes is crazy. It's not like a piano where you just press a pedal and then like it mutes the notes. They're doing it manually with their hands. How did those dudes know to chime in? Like in the front. There's not like there's a conductor. Remember we talked about the African one? Where there was like the dancers changed their moves based upon the lead drummer like slapping the drum real hard? These guys just somehow knew. Just side note, that dude's got beautiful nails. Can I get a hell yeah?
Amazing!
Awesome.
really beautiful. Try to apply Schenkerian analysis and Western music theory to that. I challenge you. It's not possible. And that's
Am I hearing delay?
Pardon?
I'm hearing delay.
Uh-oh.
Or like echoing.
Uh-oh. Still?
Testing? No.
Good?
Yeah, that's good.
Teaching on Zoom. It's a funky adventure. Yeah. Like good luck trying to understand that with a Western eye and ear. And I think part of it is that like it's so complex and ancient and beautiful that like the well-meaning but feeble attempts at sticking all music in a one theory box would just it's the box ain't big enough. It should be noted that this particular style of music is not improvised. It's all planned out, and there is notation for it. In case you're interested in what that notation looks like. Y'all see that?
Oh.
Yeah.
Wait, that's our music sheet?
Yes.
Well, music sheet.
Yeah, I mean, it looks a lot like a tablature for guitar, right? And this is just like one example. Like that's for one part. That's like for one player. I don't know what it means. Obviously, this one was meant for a vocalist as well with lyrics and stuff. I think these are the muting things. This is where you put your left hand on the instrument to stop the vibrations or whatever. But yeah, this is one of those things where it's like the kind of best of both worlds, whereas like the Northern Indian tradition is to improvise everything. And the American tradition is to improvise everything within a framework. And this one, and the European tradition is to plan everything. This is kind of like all three combined. That's why I left this one to the end. Obviously, if I played this one first, it wouldn't have made much sense. So anyway, there you go. Thus ends the unit of music theory and white supremacy. And I thank you all for listening. Let's get to the next part. Actually, I guess we could discuss this a little bit because that's a lot of heavy stuff. What did you think of that particular example that I showed you there?
It sounds super familiar to me. It sounds like I've heard it before, but I can't recall where.
It might be like built into your DNA somewhere, man. I mean, like
it's definitely not from a video game, but it feels super familiar. It's like deja vu to the point I kind of remember it, but not really.
It definitely has a vibe of like it sounds like the landscape that it was made in, you know, like the chaos and unpredictability and also serenity of the deep South Asian jungle. Like it's not like that they're trying to mimic somewhere else. Doesn't sound like the desert, right?
No.
That sounds
because like it's probably when I was young studying in the Philippines, because I remember struggling so much in Philippine tradition subject because I didn't know my native language that much and I can't write it nor read it. But I can't speak it, so.
It kind of reminds me a little bit of powwow music because at least in my extremely limited experience, like the music that I've heard in ceremony here, it sounds like the prairie. It sounds like wide open landscape, and it's meant to be heard by the eagles. It's meant to project outwards. And yeah, you know, I might be completely off base on that, but like it sounds big and meant for open spaces. Like imagine, well, like, Hunter, you've played a whole bunch of music in that little jam room of ours. Imagine us trying to have like Cree ceremonial music in that room. It would be way too loud.
Mm-hmm.
It's supposed to be outside. It's supposed to be sung to the heavens, to the creator.
Yeah.
It's anyway, similar to the gamelan. It's meant to mimic what's going on outside, or at least be appropriate for it. It's about a connection to nature. I think. I don't know. I'm very. The more you know, the more you don't know. Sorry, the more you know, the more you know you don't know. That sort of old phrase. Yeah. So yeah. Thus ends the unit on music theory and white supremacy. I don't know if that's going to carry forward in the practices or day-to-day life or whatever, but it's at least I was able to introduce you to at least 4 different non-European cultures of music in a very cursory way, and I hope that you'll also share those things with the people that you know and love and stuff. And
can you send that to me, Mr. Valen?
Absolutely. Yep. I totally will. Yeah. So getting back to the next thing on my list here, and unless anybody has anything else to offer.
Nope.
No.
Okay. I'm going to play you something that was very special to me, because over the last 550 days, we've not been able to have a band in the band room. But now with the restrictions kind of easing as they are, yesterday we were able to have the first band rehearsal in that band room in 550 days. And we've made a lot of music in there. Burn, Michael in the bathroom, literally 4 dozen other things in that room that none of them more important than the next. But having multiple people in there performing as an ensemble has been something that's not been possible for a while. So we put the batteries back in the clock. I alluded to this earlier, and we made a video yesterday. The original song was by Lydia Barton, who's been a major contributor to this program over the last 2 years. And Hunter played the guitar solo at the end of the original recording. Jace stepped in on this one. How's your toes, by the way, man?
They suck, and I don't. It hurts a lot, especially when I drum. The kick pedal hits my my toe. So,
do you use kick pedals with shoes on?
I use my bare feet, or I use socks and shoes. I use all 3.
Okay, yeah, socks is generally speaking the best, unless you got Converse All Stars. Those seem to have the best slip.
Matter of fact, I have Vans.
Those, yeah, same.
I use Vans to drum sometimes.
Right on.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll get you back in there soon, man. You're a major part of this program, and I can't wait to get you playing in the band with that. It's gonna be anyway, it was beautiful earlier. I thought I'd play it for you because Hunter had to miss the other day. Where's it in China music? Bitter sweet. And we'll play this thing. So it's kind of interesting. It's like I forget how to play in a band. I haven't played in a band I usually work about 150 dates a year, either rehearsals or shows, and I have played 3 in the last 18 months. So I forget how to play in a band. We did 8 takes of this and took the last one. It took a full hour to do this, like a 3.5 minute tune. It took the full hour, but I thought I'd share it with you here. Just a plug for Lydia, who I know you don't see the work like below the surface, like you only see like the top of the carrot or whatever. But like she is a brilliant songwriter and has been going hard with her spare time. I think she's written at least 8 songs in the last year, plus the ones that she's just not willing to show me. But it's like, yeah. Anyway, not biased, just saying, holy cow! This was the the volcano eventually erupted, and it was beautiful and amazing, and I wanted to share it with you here. So it'll be this, and then we'll stop the recording and talk about the schedule for next week.
Sweet.
Oh, there's one lyric in here I should mention about. She says, "It hurts to hold the rope, but I don't want to let you go. What do I do if it feels like I've lost you? It hurts to hold the rope, but I don't want to let you go." This is a metaphor. It hurts to hold the rope, as in like your end of the rope, metaphorically speaking, but also hurts to hold the rope, as in I'm tired of being the link between you and you ending your life. Like the rope is in a noose. So it's both holding the rope metaphorically and holding the rope literally. It hurts to hold this rope because I'm trying to like not let you hang yourself in your habits or your decisions or whatever. So it's a little bit of both. It's like if I let go my end of the rope, I stop suffering. But if I let go my end of the rope, you suffer. This interconnectivity of relationships. Brilliant songwriter. Just Lydia, you're so good. If you're watching this, Lydia, I love you. Mwah, 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 mwah. Anyway, here we go. There you go. 550 days later, We're back.
That was nice.
That was beautiful. I loved that.
Hey, Hunter, you notice anything about Jace's guitar solo there?
It was quiet.
Yeah, the mix, I mean, like specifically with what he was doing.
Yeah, I noticed.
He was actually using his pinky finger. And I used to just be like just these three, and he's actually using.
Oh, right, yeah.
We've been working on that for like 3 years. Anyway, thanks everybody. I've gone a bit over time here. There's only one more thing to do, and that is to make the schedule for next week. This kind of seems a little empty with some of the key players around, but I'll at least give it a go. So I'll stop the recording now, and this will be the upload for later. We can't do this without it. Yeah, boards up. All right, there. I finally did it right the first time. Oh, God, I love you guys. All right, let's make the schedule now.